So this is a 2000 Honda Civic, and we have a little issue with the air conditioner. Well, it doesn't work, and it's August, so that's a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to start out by, well, what I first did was charge it. Hooked up the air conditioner Freon to the low pressure side here on the low pressure hose and charged it, and not a bit of pressure stayed in the system. The AC clutch didn't kick on at any time in the filling of the low pressure hose. So what I'm suspecting is that there is a leak from the compressor itself. Well, that was kind of evident because I looked down the splash shield, saw a lot of oil, and I also saw a lot of oil slung clear back here onto the mud flap. I'm assuming it's going to be from the air conditioner, but I'm not exactly sure yet. So I bought some dye, or some Freon that has a dye already on it, a little black light, and of course some safety glasses. So I'm going to turn this off for a minute, start trying to charge it and see what happens and see if I can play with it. What I did now is I hooked up the can of Freon with dye. This is just the cheap stuff I bought from the auto parts store at Walmart, the 134A light, 134A air conditioning coolant, and it does have a dye inside of it. So I hooked it up. I'm going to turn the engine on, then I'm going to come back and start trying to charge it a little bit and see if I can find out where this leak is coming from. Again, like I said, it's on the low pressure side. I'm going to grab a hold of the can. I'm going to get it right because I tried it already. I'm going to turn the engine off now and just kind of show you. It's a little bit dark in here. I shut the door so I can see better with the black light. But I let like I said, I charged it with the dye in the low pressure side. As you can see, there's a nice little green fluorescence with this little UV light that I got from Walmart at the same time, but I'm not dumping a whole lot of money into this until I start making the repair itself. This is just a little bit of cheap diagnostics. So now I'm going to go along and kind of charge it. Since, like I said, since the compressor never kicked on, I thought the leak was coming before the AC compressor, and so follow the low pressure line. And as I get down there to the AC compressor, lo and behold, look at all that green stuff on top of the compressor. So I got a pretty good guess the leak is coming out of there. Not exactly sure yet if it's an O-ring or it's being slung out of the compressor, but you notice it's all in the bottom of the splash shield. But I've got a pretty good idea it's going to end up being the compressor because my luck is... So I removed the low and high pressure side hoses off of the air conditioner compressor, and I was just hoping it was going to be an O-ring leaking, but you can see where the dye, well, you would see it if I had that at a better angle, didn't come out of the O-ring around the low pressure side, as I was just hoping it was the low ring, but you can see there's no dye pigmentation around the flange of that mounting port for the low pressure side. So imagine that there's probably a crack somewhere or something else leaking inside of the compressor. So next I'm going to pull out the compressor, take a look at it, and chances are I'm going to have to replace the compressor, the accumulator, the expansion valve, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to crawl around underneath the car and start taking things apart. So I cleaned off the the power cable going from the compressor that goes up the side to the fan shroud for the condenser cooler. And I'm going to pull this coupler off and try to get that little white clip out, which is probably going to be the hardest part of that ordeal. So I think a little bit ago I pointed down to the cable that comes down off the air conditioner compressor that's going to be hooked up to the coupling. I think I pointed out on top to where it goes. That's just the fan control motor itself. The air conditioner compressor coupler is down here on the bottom, so I'm going to have to get underneath the car and unhook that. I'm going to take out, I already did it, but I'm going to show you this too. There's two fasteners over here into the splash shield on the underbody. It just has two little plastic screws. The idler pulley, the belt tensioner pulley on a 2000 Honda Civic. If you have to replace your air conditioner compressor like I just got done doing, one of the things that you're going to really need to do is loosen the idler pulley for the compressor belt. You'll need a 14mm wrench and a 10mm wrench with a nice extension on it. The first thing you have to do, and first step, is loosen this. You'll be better served by getting underneath the car to loosen it from the bottom side after you put it on jack stands and check the tires so that they don't roll away from you. After you loosen this bolt, just a couple turns, you don't need to take it out all the way, you don't need to take it all the way off. And obviously the more twist you put on taking it off, you're going to have to put them back on and you don't have a whole lot of room to work on it. So after you get that loose, come back up here with the 10mm bolt fastener, or 10mm socket, get on this 10mm fastener, loosen that up. As you loosen this up, you'll start noticing a gap in between here. And that gap will slowly drop the pulley down further and further and further, where you can, it's pretty easily seeable once you start doing it. That way you can go ahead and pop the belt back on or take it off. And that is it. Obviously, to reverse it, it's going to be the same way, except you're going to want to tighten this that 10mm fastener back up. Once you got it to the desired belt tension, where you don't have a whole lot of belt movement, belt play, come back into the front, underneath of it, get back on that 14mm bolt and tighten it back up. It just has two plastic screw clips that can be taken out. There's a 10mm bolt or a Phillips head screw, and you just back it out, then pull the clips out with your fingers. So now I'm underneath the car. I took a few more of the fasteners out of the splash shield. There was a little plastic screw clip right over here and a couple metal bolts right in here that I took out. Bent that back a little bit. Now you can see the AC compressor. The white stay clip I got to take out, and there's a electrical coupling for the air conditioner compressor. So now I'm going to unhook all that, but I got to put the phone down. So what I did, got underneath here, I cleaned out this lock tab, had some gunk in it, knocked some rocks and dirt out of it before I was able to unhook it. I just pushed on this little button right here like you would on the lock tab and unset the coupler. Also unhooked this white stay clip off the condenser fan shroud, and just since I was here, just loosened up these two bolts a little bit. And now I'm going to have to go and take off the belt. So I'm going to kind of bust these two bolts loose on the top. With the air conditioning compressor, you got to pull these two out. You saw me earlier take the bottom two loose, knock them out. So I'm going to pull them out, and I'm going to save you the pain of watching me back bolts out all the way. And right now I'm just putting my camera on pause. That is one big hole. And I didn't see it from the top. Probably could have if I would have paid a little bit more attention, but I didn't expect to see something crazy like that. So in this, with the air conditioner compressor, it's been out for quite some time, the one with a great big hole in it, I am going to also replace the accumulator or the receiver dryer, whichever you want to call it. Notice there's two bolts right there in the very top of it. It's underneath the power steering fluid bottle and the washer fluid bottle. Second bolt's a little bit underneath that line coming out with the power steering bottle, but it's not going to be that bad. So to get a little bit more off with the accumulator, it's a little bit dark right here, sorry about that, but there's a little retention clip right here inside the wheel well. I'm going to pull that out so I can get in here a little bit better, and I'll pull the accumulator out. Alright, so there's a... Oh, that's horrible. So right there's the accumulator. There's a little fastener on front of it. I'll just back that out and then slide her down. To back it out, I'm just using an 8mm with a deep well. Might be a little problematic. I think I'm going to end up brushing it right into the washer tank, but then again, I may not, and I just need to loosen it up a little bit. It is rustier than crap, so I might have to battle it a little bit, but we'll not see. Much of a battle at all. I just got it loose enough. Starting to see the separation in that black bracket on it, and then I'm gonna wiggle it out a little bit more and then start sliding it down. Now once I got everything loose enough, I had to back that out pretty far to get it past that little weld seam on the top of the accumulator or dryer. I gotta pull this coupler off the top of the accumulator or dryer, and then it'll be out. Alright, here's a new AC compressor. Got a Sandtech. I got the whole kit. Came with the compressor. I believe this is a new compressor, not rebuilt. Came with the expansion valve, the dryer, accumulator, receiver, whatever you want to call it. This comes with the caps. You got one on the suction side, one on the discharge side. And you can tell from over here, got the little markings that say S and D for suction and discharge. I'm going to start off by pulling this little cap off the suction side. Got to take this 10 millimeter bolt off. Pull this cap off. I add about 4.5 ounces of PAG oil to the compressor. Give the clutch a few little turns to get some stuff floating around in there, and then put this back on. That way when we put the compressor back in the car, it's not going to drip all over my head. The kit also came with this cool little measuring cup and a bottle of premium PAG 46 oil. I'm going to dump about 4.5 ounces into this little cup, and then I'm going to pour it into this after I take that off. I'm not going to add as much PAG oil as I thought I was going to. When I took this off the suction side, the compressor was under pressure already. Pulled this fastener out, pulled that off, and it popped, and I'm not going to lie, it made me jump. I wasn't expecting a little discharge of pressurized gas to come out at me like that. So I dumped the remainder, so after I did that, I figured, you know what, there's got to be oil in this already. So I dumped the oil out and checked how much was in there. There's roughly 2.5 ounces. And there's some oil in there from the machining of the original machining of the compressor. But I'm going to go ahead and toss some about 4.5 ounces of oil back in there and start installing it in the car. So I went ahead and dropped the 4 bolts into the compressor. Remember in the early part of the video you could see there were some interference issues with getting the bolts out with the condenser fan shroud itself. So I'm going to try putting the bolts in it before I try to put it in the car itself. That way I can eliminate the interference issues trying to put it in, but I will have other issues with trying to keep the bolts in and not dropping them out while I'm going in, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Alright, so now the compressor is back in. Tighten up the 4 bolts on the bottom and on the top. Those are 12 millimeters, like I probably didn't tell you that before, but that bolt, and there's 2 more on the bottom to match up. One thing I didn't really say a word about was taking the belt off of the compressor. So in order to take the belt off the compressor, you need to loosen up the nut. I'm trying to find a good way to get a picture of this. On the back of the idler pulley, it's that pulley right there. There's a nut or bolt on that side of it. And then right here is a belt adjustment. The belt adjustment bolt. So you'd want to loosen that up after you loosen that 14 millimeter on the outside of the idler pulley. Then loosen that, and sure enough, the pulley will slowly start walking down. Alright, so here's the old dryer. I'm going to pull this off. I already loosened the pressure switch off of the dryer. Just going to twist it off. Park that over here. Here's the new dryer. I just took, there's a little bolt in there. Be handy if you can kind of put this in a vise, little something rubber around it to not damage the tube. And a little O-ring on it. I'm going to put the O-ring back on it, put some oil on it, and then put the pressure switch back in.